Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast, where you'll be not only allowed, but encouraged to dream big dreams and imagine the very best future for yourself and your family. Throw away expectations and perfection and embrace the messy beauty of what it means to be a marvelous mom. I'm your host, Kirsten Tyrell, and I can't wait to help you discover what makes you marvelous. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. It's going to be a good one, especially if you're struggling a little bit with complication in your home and in your life, because I've brought in an expert that's going to help us simplify things a lot. Her name is Stephanie Sikora, and she is amazing. Actually, before I keep going, did I say that correctly?
You did. Yes. Great job.
Yay. Okay, good. And she is going to kind of revolutionize, I guess she's not going to jump into your house and help you make it simple, but she's going to give you guys some tips. She's going to give her background so you can kind of understand where she's coming from and help you to do some of the same things. So thank you for being here, Stephanie. I'm excited to have you.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So before we dive into all of the good things, let's give everybody a little bit of a background on kind of your family situation, how many kids you have, and what your mommy stage looks like right now.
I have two girls. So I a 6-year-old. She just turned 6 this week. And I have a 3-year-old daughter, 3 going on 13. And so, yes, so they keep me plenty entertained and plenty busy. And so when I am not working with clients and on my business, I am working on being a mom.
Yeah, I love it. And the two of them can typically go pretty hand in hand, but I know we're going to talk a little bit about how that can be a lot more possible too when you have the right systems in place and everything. So I love it. I love that you have the 2 girls. Sounds like a really fun stage of motherhood. And I guess they call that what, a 3-nager?
Exactly. I mean, she's on fire. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Where does she get it from, you or her dad?
I would have to say me, which I know, I'm like, I don't know if I was ever that sassy, but my husband is a middle school counselor. And I'm like, you should be able to deal with this because she's acting like a middle schooler. So you are all on this. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys can just take turns You can take turns handling, he'll be fully equipped to handle when she gets to that stage and that age. He'll be like, I deal with this all the time. This is nothing. And you'll just have to survive the 3s, I guess, until it comes.
Exactly. Tried my best to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Give us a little bit of background on, okay. So first of all, the name of your business is Life Made Simple at Home, which, who doesn't want more of that in their life, right? But just give us a little background on when that began and kind of your background, even as a business owner. Have you always been an entrepreneur? Is this something that kind of came out of necessity after you became a mother, or just give us the story?
Yeah. So I actually am an exercise physiologist by training. So I was in healthcare for 15 years. And I started staying home with my girls a couple years ago, but it was like January 2017. And that was never really the plan, but the universe guided me down this different path. And they were, I think, 2 and 4 at the time. And I'm someone who always, I always like to organize things and that kind of stuff, but I never was fully aware of how much my environment was impacting me, that I was like, it is so much harder to be home with my girls than it was to work, I felt like. And I was so consumed by, I always knew that I liked things like quote unquote organized, but I never realized how I was consumed by when my space was, it was chaotic all the time, like being home with 2 girls. I felt like it was always chaotic and that was consuming me. And I remember the day that my daughter said to me, Mom, like, come do Legos, come do puzzles, whatever it was, always come sit down with us. And I never really could do that. I was always trying to take care of everything that needed to be done because it would drive me crazy if it wasn't done, and there was like papers or whatever. And she said, I said, I'll be right there. She said, but Mom, you never do come. Like, you never sit down and play with me. And that, I know, like, stopped me dead in my tracks. It made me realize, like there's got to be a better way. I've got to do all these things. I get it. Like, to, feed people and bathe them and, make our house somewhat presentable, like, so I wasn't going crazy, but there has to be a better way. And that's when I really stepped back. And when I was in healthcare, part of my career was optimizing and really simplifying for efficiencies, like clinical spaces and patient flows. And I would go into ORs and exam rooms, and I would look at just like the journey of a patient and figure out how can we make this easier? How can we make this simpler and, take less energy and money and with better outcomes? And that's when I stepped back and I was like, I can apply that professional training really to my own home. And because I wanted to do what I needed to do and keep the space clear so that I could focus, because I wasn't it just would drive me nuts. Like I bet a lot of people can relate to that. And I know because I talk to a lot of people,
Yep.
but I'm like, there's gotta be a better way to do it. So it's not completely consuming me and taking me away from what is most important. And that is showing up for myself and for my girls and, you know, my husband in the way I want to. And it never really, I thought it never was supposed to be a business or, you know, and then it just kind of evolved because I was talking to so many other women who felt the same way and who also thought, what's wrong with me? Why am I so OCD? Why am I so, and these are the words people would say, I'm OCD, I'm anal retentive, like what's wrong with me? Everything has to be like, you know, orderly. And it's really about, and I learned it's how our brains are wired. And then it just started evolving into helping people to understand it's not that there's something wrong with you, but this is why it makes you feel anxious. This is why it makes you feel stressed when you're in those environments. And this is how it holds you back in life when stuff is chaotic. And then how do we go about doing it in a way that doesn't, you know, suck all the energy out of us, basically. And it just evolved. And, you know, with my healthcare background, I did a lot of, you know, wellness coaching for physicians struggling with burnout. And I was seeing a lot of the same signs and symptoms with moms, you know, struggling with burnout. And so how do we go about doing what we need to do without completely depleting ourselves? And that's kind of how it evolved. And now it's this fabulous business. And I get to work with so many women in their homes or virtually. And I just get to see how their lives shift when they kind of shift this approach to, you know, taking care of all the things we need to in our homes. And how do we create more systems? How do we simplify and create more systems in our environment?
Yeah. Oh, well, you're
Long
definitely
answer.
No. It's a great answer. And I want to like unpack that a little bit too, but I completely relate to that because I homeschool now. I just started homeschooling my oldest and in the fall it will be all 3 kids. We're going to be doing a lot of traveling and it's almost like going through a nesting phase again when your babies are going to be born. It's like, okay, we're going to go through this whole change. And I have been going like a crazy person trying to just feel like I have to find a system for this. I have to simplify this because we cannot. When I approached my husband about homeschooling, first of all, he was like, "What are you talking about?" Because we both work from home full time. So this affects him too. This isn't like, okay, well, I don't care what you do in your home.
Right.
He will be here as well. And so I told him, I was like, I acknowledge that we cannot in our current situation homeschool. Like I understand that the culture and the tendencies and habits of our home life do not really lend themselves to homeschooling because we're barely keeping up with life as it is right now. And that's something that I've really tried, but it is so challenging. And I have a systems brain too. So I'm really excited to kind of hear maybe some of your top tips on how you've really made that happen. Obviously, we know like you provide so much training and you do one-on-one consulting with people. So you don't have to give us the whole entire rule book in this one episode, but I would just love to kind of know for myself as I'm trying to go through and create systems for maybe the bigger things like, you know, keeping the kitchen clean. And how have you kind of come to a place? What would you say? I'm asking so many questions, but let's just narrow it down to this one. What would you say has been the biggest like mental alleviation for yourself so that you're not just sitting there playing with your kids, but looking at all the messes you need to clean up? Like what's helped you kind of have that peace of mind?
Well, I would say the 2 things is when we first started this journey, we, you know, it's less stuff, just really getting to like, what do we really need to have? Like, so whether it's, you know, whatever, like toys, whatever it might be, but the less we have, the less we have to manage. And I think people are getting that, you know, it's like, oh, if I let go of some stuff, then we're less, you know, it's just less to manage, less to take care of, less to pick up, less to pay to maintain, all that kind of stuff. But when there's less stuff, there's just quite frankly less to pick up. Like if there's 5 figures, my kids will pull out 5. If there's 20, they'll pull out 20, you know? And so I would say having less stuff to manage, but that even, like I said, even if there's 20 or there's 5, they'll still pull them out and put them all over the floor. But I would say having what gives me peace of mind. And that's when I work with people. I'm like, we're not looking for perfection here. We're not looking for like all the chaos to go away. Like it's still going to be there, but you're going to feel less anxious and stressed because when everything has a home. And so if you decide this is worth keeping and this is worth keeping in our home, then let's find a proper home for that object, whatever it might be. Like my kids' art supplies, whatever. Like this morning I came home from the gym and like literally like they pulled, I think every piece of paper, every marker was out on the table because they were drawing this morning, which is a great thing. Normally that would make me anxious. It still makes me, I'm like, ugh, when I look at it, you know, but I feel at ease because I'm like, everything, I know I can clean this up in like 2 minutes because everything has a home, or better yet, my kids can help clean it up because it has a specific home. So I would say, you know, less stuff, but to really build on that, what I think a lot of people are missing is that creating this system. So, and that would include giving everything a home that makes sense and make it easy to put away. So like all your homeschool supplies should have homes that make sense.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be, like their toys, their art supplies, like whatever it might be. I can quickly come in when it is like absolutely chaotic in my house because, again, 2 small children and a husband who is like, whatever, it just doesn't bother him,
Yeah.
It's more important to me, but I can come in quickly and, and tidy things up in a way that I'm like, okay, now I can focus. Where were we, kind of thing.
Right.
So just if you determine that it is worth keeping, then find a home that makes sense, like based on the frequency when you use it, based on where you use it, and really thinking about where's the best place to put this. And that's not easy, and it takes a couple tries to figure out what's the best place to put it. But when it has a home, it just makes it easy, I think, to maintain your sanity because you can quickly restore that order that your brain might need.
Yeah, right. That makes a lot of sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And that's probably why even we've gone through, I'm always so shocked at how it feels like we still have a ton of toys, but then I go to other people's houses and I was like, no, we're doing better than we thought. We have I've learned how to not buy things. And this isn't going to be the right answer for everybody. Some kids might like a lot of things with a lot of moving parts. My kids don't handle that well. Like they might like it for a minute, but we have to buy toys that are multifunctional, right? Like they can combine their Legos with their Magnetiles, with their Barbies, and they can make one big setup. And that's totally fine because they all know that it has a different spot when it gets put away. And it's so much better than having like a ton of little moving parts for one toy. That's just like, where did all the pieces go? My peace of mind has increased not having to keep track of pieces to a bunch of different things and just knowing that they all kind of, does that make sense? So yeah, that's given me, because I know I've gone into my daughter's room and even my son's rooms when they were younger to play with them, and all I end up doing is being like, where did all these dolls go? Like, where's all the little princesses that are supposed to go to the castle? Instead of just sitting there and enjoying the play. So yeah, that totally makes sense. And that's probably why I'm glad to know we're kind of headed in the right direction with the simplification and everything just having a place so you don't have to think about it.
Well, and that's what it is, right? It's really about, because our brains are not equipped for today's world. Like they were never meant to be processing so much. And we are exhausting ourselves with just these little tasks of like picking up stuff and like figuring out where are keys and like how to, make lunches, get people out the door, all this kind of stuff where that's the key is like, how do we create systems? How do we simplify and create systems so that we're not using our brain energy for that? So that we're not completely depleted when it comes down to our kids having a meltdown and we can't even be patient, or our partner really needs to have a conversation with us, or we want to invest in ourselves, but we're so exhausted.
Yeah.
Because we're really depleting our brain energy, which we only have so much per day, to do all these little things that it's like, it's just, you know what I mean? We're not having enough for the important stuff. And so you hit it right on the head there that it's like, it's just taking so much brain energy. And so how do we shift that? And that's why, people like they, say Steve Jobs and like, Barack Obama and even Albert Einstein, like they didn't want to use brain power to pick outfits. So they have a pretty standard wardrobe. Like, and I look back to when I had a corporate job and I'm like, oh my God, all the time I wasted picking outfits. Like now I'm like, great, a black pair of leggings. Let's go.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting down to 4 pairs of black leggings. Time to buy some more.
Exactly. I literally I was like, time to rotate out the old ones, bring in some new ones.
Yep. That's so funny. It's the mom uniform, right? Like, especially when you work from home, it totally can double as jump out the door for pickup, but also stay here and be comfortable. Yeah, I love it.
I wish I would have invented the black legging myself.
Oh my gosh, right? We would all be sitting on a pile of what's it called? DuckTales cash, the DuckTales coin.
Oh yes, exactly. Yes, like the uncle, whatever his name is. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so you kind of evolved that, and then how did it turn into more of like the business that it became? I know you kind of touched on that a little bit, but you kind of started solving, and this is how any business is born, right? Like you start solving the problem for yourself, and then you realize, hey, this is a skill that I've now kind of honed, and it's not even something you were born being super good at. It sounds like it was something that kind of started in the workplace of having a knowledge of systems and kind of growing that skill, and then finding a way to make it applicable to the home. And then I guess now turning it into something that can benefit other people. So what was that kind of journey like?
Yeah, well, I was home, and it was never a plan to stay home long term. And I was figuring out what's my next step. And I'm just like a rule follower, and I do what I'm supposed to do. And so I was like, well, I'll go get another corporate job. but there was something inside me. It's just like, no, like, that's just not, I could just feel like that's not the path. There's just, this is not why this is happening.
Yeah.
And or why this happened. And you know, I just thought maybe I can make a business out of this, because more and more people were asking just for help, and I was just going and helping friends. And I always had a passion, like with a healthcare background, like helping people in their overall health. And I was realizing the impact that the environment, their home environment, was having on their overall life. Like, it was affecting their relationships, their ability to manage their time, their money, you know, how they were showing up as a parent. And it was just one of those things. I'm like, I think I might just make a go of this.
Yeah.
And just as scary as it was, I just kind of was like, okay, I'll do this. And I never in a million years like expected it to become what it's become and to help all the people. But it is just, I mean, it just fills me up. And I mean, and I love it because it's like I get to connect with people, and that I really get to help them kind of show, like, just open things up for them in this different perspective they never thought. Like, I love like really pulling on that professional experience of like deconstructing what's happening in your home and understanding why, because we so quickly want to throw solutions at something. You know, people are like, if I just let go of everything, if I just purge my closet, my life will be better. It's like, well, yeah, but then tomorrow when you go to get ready, like, it, you know, you still have to function in that space. And,
Yeah.
but really, helping moms. Like, I was working with someone yesterday in their home, and she has a 5-year-old and she has a 6-month-old, and she's just like, and her house is gorgeous. And, you know, and it's, you know, there's just like toys and stuff and just life, like mail and papers. And she's like, I think, you know, it makes me anxious naturally, but then with the postpartum, it's just really compounding that feeling. And so we just really dove in to be like, okay, how do we create some systems just for like daily life? Like, your papers are coming in the house, or your kids' toys, or that kind of thing. And so really helping her and understanding the flow of her home. I'm like, what door do you come in? Like, when do you come in that door? Which sounds so crazy. But often if we can just identify really why is this pile happening? Then we can figure out the right solution for you, versus being like, oh, just go get a bin and just put it here and your life will be great. Or, you know, but that might not even be addressing the problem. So anyway, so it started, like, I just started helping people, and then more and more people were asking for help, because there is like women, the woman who wrote the foreword for my book, Dr. Cheryl Ziegler, who's a child psychologist, she's like, I started seeing 50% of my clients as they were the moms struggling with burnout. Like, and she's like, this has been going on for years. Like, in the 50s, there was moms struggling with burnout, but we weren't as open about it. And so it's a lot of moms are experiencing that. And so I just have the privilege and the opportunity to come in and help them, to help mitigate some of those symptoms and help how they're showing up for themselves. And so it's just evolved into this thing that I never really, dreamt of. I never thought I'd ever write a book.
Yeah.
And it was like, here we go,
Right.
So yeah, and who knows, like, it's continuing to grow from the one-on-one. I do a lot of virtual and online stuff now to reach, women all over the country at different price points. And so it's just grown into so much, but I just love it because I can totally relate with what the women are feeling. I still get those feelings in my life, and as a mom. And so it's just been, it's been this gift that you asked me 5 years ago, no, this would never have been what I would imagine. So, and I'm so excited it's become this.
Yeah. So I have a question. When you're working, I know you just said it's like such a joyful thing to work with these women and stuff. Is it hard ever to kind of step into the chaos of it, like the beginning phase, or is it just something that totally sets you on fire and excites you? Because it's kind of like, I've coached in business and I've coached in a lot of different ways, but there's always like that period of time where you're like, okay, I'm really here to help you, but are you going to commit to this? And you have to really get in their head and you have to get in their zone. Is that ever hard to kind of have to step back into the chaos to try and work them out? Or is it just super gratifying?
I would say it's more like you said, like, I'm on fire, like, let's do this. Like, I come in and I would say every woman, like, before we even meet in person, like, they send pictures of their space, we talk about it, and they're all like, I'm so embarrassed, and they're like, I can't believe it. And, and I just work with like your average mom. Like, I don't work with, people who have like, are clinically diagnosed as hoarders, because I'm not trained to help people like that. But so I'm just like, I'm walking into the average house and I'm like, oh, this looks like my house. Don't even feel embarrassed. And so I'm more, but, and so once I feel like the ability to connect with them helps them to like, let that wall come down and be like, okay, let's not worry about being embarrassed. Like, all I see right here are solutions for you. And like, let's get to work. And I said, it's the same thing as like, like when I worked in healthcare, I was, I would see patients at the most vulnerable when they're like naked in gowns. And like, I'm like, it's the same thing. Like, I'm not looking at you like, weird, you're naked. It's more like, let's take care of you. Let's help you. And it's the same thing. I'm like, okay, there's stuff everywhere. I get it. Like, and let's get to work, and I would say when most people reach out to me, they are really motivated. So they're just like, I just want some help. And so it's not really hard in that sense, but it is for me because I'm like a people pleaser and I like to really connect with people and you're in their space. So I try to be very like conscious of, you don't want to be like, what, you don't want them to feel bad about their space or anything like that. So just really, treading lightly to earn their trust quickly so that they're willing to open up and then we can really start to get to the root of things and help them. So I don't find it, that's not hard for me because most of them are like really motivated and they'll tell you what they need. They're like, if you just tell me, if I need to get rid of it, you just tell me, so just learning how to best come alongside them and help them. But no, it's not. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I'm like, oh, like, Marie Kondo always says, she goes, I love mess. I love mess. I don't say that, but like, I just love where it's like, here, I see a huge opportunity here. So
yeah. Oh, that's good to know. I think, and that's a sign that you're really, truly in it for the right reasons and that you're not like, I think it takes a special kind of person to step in and mentor somebody else and coach them through a problem because some people can master something and they just have zero desire to teach it because they don't have the patience to like wait for somebody to catch up to that point, right? Like I've met people like that who they're like, I can put out a program, I can put out a course. I cannot coach people because I just cannot get involved in, their lack of accountability or their lack of getting the progress done or whatever. So I think in the zone you're in, it's probably a perfect fit for the type of thing that you're helping people to accomplish as well. So that's good.
Yes, I think, yes, it does feel like it's the right space. And I just love like, when we're really like pulling, like deconstructing, figuring out why a space is not working. And like, I just love when they're like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Like, I've never thought about it that way. And like, that's when I'm like, yes, like this is where, we've really started to open things up so that they can see things differently. And that's where then they get really excited and they just feel so good. Like even if I come in and just help with a small space in their home or their life, they just feel so good. And that really helps them to gain momentum and even be more motivated. And then they're like, oh my God, after you left, I did this and I did this. And so it's because it is like our brain starts to kind of switch from that stressful space to like that optimistic, like this is why we meditate and do gratitude. We really want to light up that part of the brain. And when we start to clear our space, it does that. And so I just love seeing that shift. And then they hold themselves accountable because it's, they can do whatever they want. I mean, I hold space for them, but it is up to them, but they just start to feel the benefits. And so from that, they just continue on this journey just from those, just from that small space. So, so I've been fortunate in that regard.
I love that. Okay. So you mentioned that you've written a book. Where can people find that and tell us what the book is called?
Yeah, so it's called Simplified, a real life guide to organizing your space and saving your sanity.
Yes.
Because it's not just, so it talks a lot about why does my space make me feel anxious or stressed? And then, because I think it's important to understand why, because I think that shifts the motivation too. Because then we're not just going to close the door. We're not just going to start yelling at people. We really understand, wow, this is impacting me. And it's not because I'm crazy. It's really like my brain is wired.
Yeah.
And then what are some small steps you can take? Like, how do you start to, apply that and really, and it's not just, here's a weekend project. It's like, how do I make this a journey and part of my life? Because I think it is just a part of your life. If you want to keep your space simple or your life simple, it's, daily intentional, acts that you take. And then just really understanding, how that can shift your life. And it is available on Amazon. Awesome. It is both an ebook and in paperback.
Cool. Okay. I will link to that obviously in the show notes. You guys can go check that out because if this is something you're needing, that's a great place to start. And then you also offer, as we've been talking about, one-on-one coaching and programs like that. If people really want to take it to the next level and they're like, please just hold my hand, help me do this. And you don't need to come to their house. You can do this all virtually, right?
Yes. I have clients all over the country that I love, moms that I just love working with, and then I'm building some more online platforms. So just kind of like DIY stuff that will be coming out later this year.
Cool. I love it. I'm so happy that you are taking kind of that empowerment and helping it to bless the lives of other women. It's such a powerful thing, and that's what I love the internet for. That's what I love communities like this for, because somebody in all actuality, somebody's going to be way better at something than you are. And when you can combine forces with somebody who's bringing all their years of expertise without you having to learn how to do it all perfectly yourself, That's where magic happens. And that's how we truly become, I mean, we're already marvelous moms, but it makes us even better. And it makes us more well equipped to show up as a mom when we can solve all those little logistical problems. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing this.
Of course, I love it. Thank you so much. And I think you were just saying like the perfect thing, that it's like when we want to show up a certain way, like, you know, those logistical problems, like we can't let them get in the way. And so, and our environment is so big about how we show up, or has such a big impact on how we show up. And that's one thing we can, you know, kind of control. And so taking control of that really will shift how we are showing up. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I have my final question that I ask everybody on here. What makes you a marvelous mom?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because there's days when you're like, I am a really bad mom. You know, I think it's just the simple things. Like I walk my girls to and from school every day, and just like connecting with them. And that seems so lame and simple, but it's just, I really believe those small acts that really help them develop who they're going to become. And so I just try every day to take deep breaths when I'm feeling crazed, and just really connect with them on those walks.
Yeah, I love that. And that's not a silly answer. It is sometimes it lines up with what you do, right? Sometimes it's the most simple things that can make us fantastic. So I think that just fits right in line with your messaging. And I love that answer so much. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I love chatting with you.
Of course. All right, guys, go check her out. Go find her. I will link to everything so that you can go check out her website and all of the good things. If you want more of this, we'll keep it coming for you over on the blog. And again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you again for being here. You're such a fantastic guest, and you're welcome back anytime. And then everybody else, thank you for tuning in. Have a marvelous day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to take action right now, you're feeling inspired and you're feeling enlightened, and you really want to own this role as a marvelous mom, go to the website marvelousmomsclub.com/me and create your own personal Marvelous Moms manifesto. That is a tongue twister. marvelousmomsclub.com/me. You go fill in some great information, and in the end, you'll have a beautiful manifesto to display where only you can see, or the whole family can see, where you can really, really own your role as a marvelous mom and step inside those goals and those ambitions and dreams that you have to become an even more marvelous mom to your beautiful family. So again, marvelousmomsclub.com/me. We will see you over there.